Thank you for coming to this town hall meeting, for Central Saanich's town hall meeting. I've never seen a town hall meeting quite like this. The town hall meetings in Central Saanich were started in 2003, I believe, so it's been quite a tradition for Central Saanich to carry on having town hall meetings pretty much every year, sometimes more than once a year. And it's at the discretion of council, it's not something mandated by council. So council has decided that they wish to have a town hall meeting, and the idea of it is to be more of an exchange, conversation, versus the formality of a council meeting, which is quite rigid and sometimes leaves people with desire to ask more questions or to try to work together for solutions. And I think that a town hall meeting is an opportunity for us to try to work on solutions.
My name is Ken Marion. I live on Logan Mary Place in Central Saanich. Most of us today, many of us today, attended the meeting at the CRD, which gave me a recognition of why it's so difficult to get things done. There's a decorum. No, seriously, with respect. There's a decorum, there's Robinson's rules of running a meeting, and it was quite well done. But it did tell me, by listening to the various directors, that there's conflicts of ideas, and I envision that when this all happened to us 3 or 4 years ago, let's put it down on a farm, that'll solve the problem of organic waste, and there was a tick in the box and that's done. Not anticipating that you hadn't done the due diligence, the authorities had not done the due diligence. So I wanted to stand up at that meeting and ask, because I wasn't sure, and nor was anybody else in the street. And here's my question. Did the meeting today address our final concern of shutting that down permanently in a residential area? I didn't get a sense that that was the case. So I would like that to be a discussion on the floor.
Maybe I could speak to that. I certainly don't want to hog the floor this evening, but it was quite clearly addressed by Chair Nils Jensen at the meeting that the process for licensing is a quasi-judicial process, and it's actually administered by staff and senior manager that was there today. And so she hears even the appeal and things like that. There's a process in place, the due process for all that to take place. And it's not actually within the authority, or even should it be, for the committee to influence that process. That process is a judicial process, and so therefore Mayor Jensen from Oak Bay, who chairs that committee, was very clear that that wasn't going to be a determination of the committee today. There is a process for that, but that wasn't one of the things that was up for a final discussion today.
Is it correct to say that this is just my observation, I'm going to go out on a limb, but there's a lot of process involved with this issue, a lot of process and various organizations and stuff, and I imagine that that's quite frustrating for the residents, because if I were confronted with this smell every day outside my house, I would want it addressed right away. The process
outside our house.
Yeah,
It's
it's inside as well.
It's all over the place.
Well, had the process been done at the beginning,
Right.
we wouldn't be here tonight.
That's
That's my point. Having watched the process today, I understand why, forgive me, mistakes are made. Barb Desjardins said it completely. We're going down one narrow lane. As a matter of fact, our own mayor, Alistair, suggested that he had 3 points of view on this. An entry level, a medium, and a long-term range plan. It was eloquently spoken. It still leaves us with the problem that the process and due diligence and the homework was not done initially. That doesn't mean we can't stop it now and reposition ourselves quickly as can be. And unfortunately, we don't have the authority to do that other than recalling politicians, which would be an interesting point of view, and stopping this that affects our living and health in this wonderful community.
My name's
Phil Cotterill, live on Wilcox Terrace. I don't know if anybody caught the Check 6 news tonight. But, I felt like I got kicked in the teeth watching that news
Yes.
because with the small amount of progress we made, it was stated on the news that Saanich has signed a deal with Mitchell's, and they showed a picture of, I don't know if anybody's seen that cinder block building. They showed a picture of that. I don't know if that's it or not, but that it's a done deal with Mitchell's. So we're fighting this battle, and we're getting kicked in the teeth. And I don't know, I don't have solutions.
And I see a hand up for that.
Paul Bonner, I live in Central Saanich. We've mentioned this on several occasions at several different meetings. There's only one place all of the stuff should be going, that's Heartland Land. It's a win-win situation for the CRD. They can make money bringing the product in, they can make money getting rid of the product when it's done. It's a win-win, it's not rocket science.
Just state your name.
My name's Kevin Fry, I live on Ray Road. And actually, I'd like to ask the mayor about the letter he wrote on September 9th to Nils Jensen, which was the one where he talked about the mayor and council of the District of Central Saanich requested that CRD Environmental Services Committee give consideration to. It's 2 pages long, I won't read the whole thing. But I'm wondering if you've heard anything back at all in terms of an acknowledgement of it or any acknowledgement about your wishes and your expressions in that letter.
So the letter was on the agenda today at the Environmental Services Committee, along with the motion from Central Saanich. There was a second letter from Central Saanich Council with regard to requesting that capacity be developed at Heartland landfill for composting. Both of those letters were given consideration by the committee today, and in fact, the dialogue wasn't to not move forward, it was to postpone consideration of setting up the temporary holding storage capacity for food waste at Heartland until staff bring forward, and I think the planning is bringing in October, the range of options which lays out much more clearly how we would move forward with developing that capacity at Heartland. Is what I heard from the directors today around the committee table. There's a strong support, at least I heard at the committee table today, for the development of some capacity at Heartland. It's just, it was premature for us to spend $200,000 until we know what those options look like, and so that was why the committee decided that we wanted to hold off on spending $200,000 until we actually have the options for setting up some composting facilities.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor, I was actually looking to the first few paragraphs of your letter about the concern that you were expressing, you know, lest these concerns be dismissed as NIMBY, they are not. The Central Saanich community knows and values. Were any of those comments addressed?
So actually, I acknowledge, I sat back for a moment, I didn't immediately jump in, even though we had the 2 letters on that item. I wanted the committee members, the directors from the other communities to actually share their thoughts with respect to the impacts that Central Saanich has been feeling on this. And I actually complimented my colleagues at the committee because I felt that we were getting really good acknowledgement from the committee members that this was an unacceptable situation, that the CRD takes this very seriously, and that they weren't wanting to see this impact be perpetuated on Central Saanich residents. So, if people heard something different from that, then, you know, I'm welcome to hear that, but I heard very clearly from other directors at the table that they don't consider this to be a satisfactory approach at this point.
But what we didn't
Thank you.
hear.
Hold
Mr.
on,
Mayor,
maybe we could just hear.
No, go ahead,
Okay,
please go ahead.
Great.
What we didn't hear was that you'll stop it and you'll look at your options and cease and desist on this particular methodology of getting rid of the waste. We're not against getting rid of the waste, it's just how you're doing it. If all of this process had been done months, years ago by the people responsible, the CRD directors who gave the permit, and they asked all these questions, we would not be here tonight. You say it's a sharp learning curve and it's a long learning curve. Look, you don't have to be a great thinker to understand if you mix dead animals, cats and pets and dogs, and mix it in with plastic and food waste, that it won't smell. There's no way you can contain that, and you know that as a farmer, and we know it as citizens.
So we could maybe take that for information right now and then hear from someone else as
But
well.
could I just correct
Sure.
one piece of information?
As long as we're not gonna.
No, but because it is important.
Sure.
Because what actually is in place is a bylaw that allows people to apply for a facility license, and that license is actually provided by staff, as I said earlier, and it's not, there was never a vote at the CRD board table to approve a license for this facility.
For which facility,
For
Alex? For
the
Mitchell's?
No,
Or
for
Foundation?
foundation,
Okay.
yeah. Or was there actually at Central Saanich, because there was no special permission required from Central Saanich. So it's important that people understand that.
This is again that process that gets complicated and confusing somewhat, and so.
Okay, so I'm a simple, my name is Pam Colton and I live on Wilcox Terrace. And I'm an at-home mom. I'm very simple-minded and I cannot wrap my brain around this, and this is why, Alistair. I did attend the CRD meeting today and I found it empowering. I listened to Barb DeJondis. I thought she was a great advocate. I thought to myself, these people really are doing what we need them to do. I left, I walked my community, I said we're in good shape. I sat down with a cocktail this evening, thinking that we're on a road to victory, and I felt the same as you did. I went, what? That's not what I heard today. If it is truly, Alistair, and I'm maybe being confrontational due to my frustration and my nervousness, but here's where I'm coming from. If it's the CRD who approves the licensing for, let's say, Foundation Organics, and then hence potentially the licensing for Mitchell's, then, and if Mr. Leonard, the mayor of Saanich, is part of the CRD, then how can Mr. Leonard walk out the front door with the CRD symbol behind him going, we're running solo. I don't know what you guys are all doing, but you're doing it wrong. In Saanich, we've got 42,000 signatures, we've got a taker, and we're going solo. Well, that's all great, but Mr. Leonard, your garbage is in Saanich. Why are you bringing it to Central Saanich? And, Mr. Leonard, why weren't you at that meeting today if you are so empowered with your great ideas? So I left there today thinking, okay, now what? And I'm asking you, as our mayor, I so respect, sir, that you have one hat on as our mayor, you have another hat on as a community member, you have another hat on as a businessman in our community, and you have another hat on as our CRD. But I need one of those hats to tell me what is our community going to do about A, stopping this man from producing. It's wrong. And anybody with half a common sense, I know how to make blueberry muffins, so I know when I walk outside that front door that that smell is wrong. Why isn't somebody doing that for me?
I want to taste those muffins.
Well, and I would anybody who is in this room that has not smelled that smell and tried to make blueberry muffins in my kitchen, come on over, Alistair, and we can do it together.
I better be careful, there might be something else.
Absolutely. Well, there might be plastic if we keep going the way we're going.
And thanks.
Thank you.
I mean, the community has had to endure an incredible plume of odor this summer. I mean, you've read the letter, the council understands this, and we're working with the tools we have available to try to represent your interests. And I hope that the community sees that. We're working really hard to try to represent your interests. And, you know, we've even taken quite a bold step here in terms of filing a statement of claim in
Correct.
Supreme Court.
I agree.
So, and I think that just demonstrates the fact that these are very much legal issues, and it's not about baking muffins at this point. It's about lawyers arguing cases back and forth. And as frustrating as that is to everybody in this room, because you're having to breathe this on a day-to-day basis, and I understand that. This issue is still a legal process, and we live by that rule of law. Now, when I break the law, if I was to be pulled over for speeding or something like that, you know, I would take that seriously, and I would take the correction, and I probably wouldn't speed for the next little while, right? So, my point is that some people, that's their action. They take responsibility for trying to work within the rules that the system has laid out. And then other people, you know, I'm also entitled to go to court if I want to fight that ticket, right?
Right.
And so that's an option we have in society. And I think it would be, while a lot of people are willing to accept the judgment at the outset, it's also important that in our society that we have the rule of law and people have the opportunity to their day in court too. That's a challenging situation in this particular environment because we have to acknowledge that that's something that this person is entitled to. And I don't want to get into the details of something that's before the court, except to say that we have to follow that process through as council and respect that process. And there isn't a quick, there's no switches here.
So Alistair, with all due respect then, to me what I don't understand is I sat through that whole meeting. At no point did anybody from the CRD say, well, hang on, we actually have another farmer who is building a building who is interested in also doing compost. That never even came up. And so I'm confused as a community member. I almost felt like I got duped. I felt like all of a sudden everything was just smoke and mirrors at that CRD. It felt like to me that the right hand's not talking to the left hand's not talking to the right hand, and where does that leave us as a community? That's what I really need to know.
I can appreciate that, and as I said, I don't want to discuss the Mitchell potential situation, except to say that, I'll leave that to other members of council. I mustn't take part in that conversation, except to say that it is a factual matter that at this point no application has been filed with the CRD, so it's quite obvious why that wouldn't be discussed if there hasn't been an application.
I understand.
The solution is very simple. The problem is that the CRD is contracting out to private individuals. The solution is very simple. The CRD should pass a motion not to do that and should take care of the green garbage the way they're taking care of all the other garbage that they're doing. Why is this being contracted out to private individuals? That's why we have this problem. That's why it's popping up in Mitchell. That's why it's here. A lot of talk about legal and process. About 10 of us that started all of this when it all started out fell on deaf ears at Central Saanich County. Central Saanich County never opened its mouth to the Agricultural Land Commission to say, hey, wait a minute, we don't think this is right. There was no protest by the Central Saanich whatsoever. In fact, I would say that the 10 of us were more or less ignored. But I just want to repeat, the solution is very simple. Get CRD to stop contracting it out, be in charge of the whole process itself, and get it up to hot level. It's not complex, it's not legal, it's not a lot of process and all the gobbledygook we hear from politicians. Just get on with it, CRD.
Thank you, sir. Gary, I think Councillor Windsor wanted to add something.
Well, I wonder how many people here have actually seen the release that went out today regarding the notice of civil claim. I would assume a number of people have. Is there anyone here who has not or is a little unfamiliar with the notice of civil claim? Would you like me to read part of it for you? Okay, so on September 20th, 2013, the District of Central Saanich filed a notice of civil claim against Gordon James Randall, Roderick Randall, Stanhope Dairy Farm, and Foundation Organics in the Supreme Court of British Columbia. The notice of civil claim seeks a declaration that the composting facility located at 6341 Old East Road in the District of Central Saanich is in contravention of the District of Central Saanich's Land Use Bylaw number 1309. The relief sought under the notice of civil claim further seeks an order requiring permanent cessation of using the property to produce compost for sale. An order requiring permanent cessation of using the property for the sorting of refuse and recyclables that cannot be composted and do not originate from the property. and in order to prevent odors detectable by humans from escaping from the composting facility on the property by carrying out initial decomposition of organic matter in a closed reactor or vessel. And that is the crux of where we are claiming under our own bylaws, they are in violation, and we are asking the courts for determination to cease operations under those.
A copy is on the Central Saanich website as well if you want to.
Sir,
Your name?
Jack Penrice, Ray Road, Central Saanich, or Central Stench. My concern, as it is everyone's here this evening, is the quality of life that we enjoy here. It's also our property values that we work hard for, and also the benefit of our children, grandchildren, future generations that come after us and are watching what we do today in 2013, how that's going to affect the future. And when we look at what's happening here, one thing becomes evidently clear. And I wasn't able to make it to the CRD meeting this morning, unfortunately, due to employment, so I apologize for not having been there. However, I was at the last council meeting that was at the Municipal Hall, and it was packed out. And it became very evident there that the CRD did not have a plan when they initiated this whole process. And I addressed that to you, Mr. Mayor, at that time. It's also very evident that with what you've even shared here this evening about being a conflict of interest with another potential operation in Central Saanich, that raises, for me, serious questions about your due diligence on this matter and what your interest really is for the community in this matter. Secondly to that, it troubles me deeply that the mayor of Saanich, Mr. Leonard, is riding roughshod as he is, saying that he'll do what he needs to do. And he's got a farmer out in Central Saanich that's more than happy to take their waste. And it reemphasizes again that there is no plan. It tells me that the municipal authorities, the governing people that we elect to the various different districts, the different municipalities, are all a multi-headed monster not working together. One municipality is wanting to do it this way, another one's doing it that way. We need to work together on these issues because these issues affect all of us, not just one municipality. We already know that there's other farmers interested in getting on side of this business operation because I can appreciate where they're coming from. There's money to be made. And farmers hurt if they're not making money, just like we do, right? But the process that is in place right now is not a process. And that's the problem. Everything I'm hearing tells me that basically municipal councils cannot really address this issue. It's like they're limited, they're hand-tied. I'm very appreciative to what the Municipal Council of Central Saanich is doing with this recent legal action being taken out against Fort Foundation Organics. And I applaud you for that. However, the problem still comes back to the fact that we have a tremendous waste problem in the CRD. We're not alone. It happens in other cities as well. We could do very well by looking at examples of other municipalities, even outside of our province, to see how they deal with these issues. Edmonton, by one example, takes raw sewage and treats it with their food waste. Now you might think, ooh, but believe it or not, it works very well. And it's actually a very productive way of fertilizing their vast tracts of farmland in the prairies. We have had a problem right from the beginning, as I've already said, because there was no plan. The municipal authorities don't seem to have the authority to get the problem dealt with. So the question I would present to anyone here that may have the answers, who do we then go to? Because clearly, with all due respect to you, the Council of Central Saanich, and the CRD, who has members of councilors or mayors from different municipalities on their board, it sounds like even the CRD board, to some degree, only has to they can only do so much, because those who are employed in the CRD, who have different authority, positions of authority, they seem to be able to make decisions. Now, I know that in Crown corporations, and I won't mention any Crown corporations here, but I've worked for a Crown corporation for a very, very long time. Thank you, Mr. Bonner. And I can tell you this, that when you have a CEO decide to do something, he has a board that he has to meet with, but does he always listen to that board? Absolutely not. He'll often do what he thinks is best. And if he's got the support provincially, in what I'll call the big house on the water downtown, then he will go and do, or she, not to show any disrespect to the ladies here, will do what they want to do in what they think is best. So the question is, I think we need to take this, do we not, to the provincial government level. Because over there,
The Elders, Central Saanich. I'm from Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia has the best composting facility in all of Canada. And there's one of the mayors, I was talking to her today, and she said she was looking into it and she was just amazed at how well they do. It costs them nothing. In fact, they make money because they use the methane from composting this material to make electricity for the whole unit. They've been doing it for years. Every store, every restaurant, everywhere on the streets are composting bins, and they do it well. Why hasn't somebody looked into another province? It's not hard, all you have to do is look at the information, you know?
So that, can I, because it can be done well, you're absolutely right, there's
Yes,
no
they even
doubt
have
about it.
composting police.
This can be
that
done,
go through the garbage.
no, but this can be done really well, there's no doubt about it. And actually,
Why didn't you
Zeb
do this to
Zeb will
begin with?
remember, when you were on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee in probably 2006, I went down there and made a presentation about anaerobic digestion.
Yes, that's
To the CRD, to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and talking exactly about the process you're talking about, where it's done in a closed vessel, and the methane is collected. And incidentally, if you look up anaerobic digestion in Chinese residences, you'll find that there's about 5 million of these in operation in people's residences in China. They use the gas for cooking their food, and they have the pig waste and the human waste and everything, and it all goes in the yard waste, and it goes into an anaerobic digester underneath their pig stall, and they use the methane gas for cooking. And actually, we have at Heartland Road, we have a very crude system of that even now, because our dump is like an anaerobic digester. Did I call it the dump? Sorry, landfill. Our landfill is like an anaerobic digester. We've been putting food waste in there for many, many years, and we have a landfill gas collection system, and we're actually generating electricity at the Heartland landfill right now from landfill gas collection.
Thank you. And the gentleman just in front of Councillor Owens.
I'm Norbert Steinhausen. I live on Taylor Court in the Tanoich area. I'd like to know if anybody is aware of any study being done to the composition of the stench. If this was a sawmill, or a pulp mill I should say, and we had a stench from a pulp mill, the question about public health would be raised and investigated instantly. I feel nobody has talked about the public health issue that's caused by the stench. It burns your nostrils, you can't eat properly, your food doesn't taste right, your clothes smell, there's still smell of the stench the next day. Upholstery in the car, if you leave the car window open, you go in the morning, you almost puke, it stings that bad. And the operation now runs at night, they figure we are asleep so we don't know they're carrying on, we can't complain as much. Anybody, is there anything done about analyzing the stench? Is there any public health issue involved?
So, well, probably a lot of people know in the room, I've written a letter to VHA very directly asking them to look at exactly these issues. And we can ask, we can't make them do it, but we've been very direct in our request. We've pointed out the concerns that we've been hearing. And I know that many members of the community have also directly contacted VHA themselves as well.
Mr. Mayor,
I actually got a response from Jada Iha, is that her name?
Yeah.
And this was last week, and she said that she was in consultation with Central Saanich and with other government officials, and that there's no health issue at this current time. So my question to her was, could you tell me who you talked to at Central Saanich? Because I don't think we're hearing the same thing from you.
So,
Like,
They are reading a different book. I can assure you that BIHA has not been told by Central Saanich or council or staff that there is not a
I
health
guess that's
concern.
why, I guess she lied, that's why she didn't
No, I
respond
can
to my
tell you
email.
that we have been,
But I sense that
the
there's
letter speaks for itself, and I'm quite happy.
There's no sense of urgency here, because we need to breathe. Like, we can't just stop breathing and say, we're gonna put it on hold. I've yet to get a good night's sleep.
a sense of urgency on our part?
On this matter.
Well, you know,
I hear you.
Mr. King, I think what we're all, I can speak for myself, but I think what we're saying is we see that you know, since September 3rd at least, we see a lot of activity from the mayor and from you, but it seems like it stops here. It seems like it's not going any further. It's like, well, we've asked for a meeting or we've
Right.
sent a letter, but no.
Do you have a suggestion for us? Because you came up with really good suggestions at that meeting when you came to council, and it resulted in motions, letters, and after that as well, meetings with the minister, et cetera. And that's what I was talking about exercising democracy. Do you have further ideas that you would like us to take forward, short of the fact that if it's not in our jurisdiction as not being a health authority, we can't become a health authority?
Well, how is it the View Royal was able to shut down right next to the
Exactly.
hospital?
Yeah.
And it was mentioned at the CRD today, and yet Dr. Standwick of Island Health, which has been renamed from VHA just this week, has either
Disappeared.
ignored your communication, if indeed, I'll take you at face value, Mr. Mayor, that you have communicated with them. I don't understand why that authority would not come and do air measurement tests to substantiate all of these claims that these citizens, in a very valid way, are expressing to us. And nothing is being done about it. If you're empowered to, or you're shackled to shut them down, at least find out what we're breathing in the air in the Tanner Ridge area. Please.
Did you hear?
No.
The mayor suggested it is a good question for the authority, right? How do we get them to listen to that?
Well, I think I'll use an analogy that I did with Alistair when I first met him on the phone. He suggested I go down and talk as a neighbor to Organics, Foundation Organics, and absolutely he did, and he will say, yes, I did. Be a good neighbor, it starts from at home, get along with them, go down and talk to them. And the analogy I used, and I said it with Ryan Windsor tonight, if there's a kid hot rodding up and down Tanner Road, and the cops can't stop him from speeding, you want me as a citizen and a neighbor to go and stand in front of his 450 horsepower engine and get him to stop and plead with him. Listen, you're the appointed authority at the highest level that we have in our local community. We voted for you to represent us.
Thank you.
For God's sakes, get the health authorities lined up and do the air testing at least, which will at least show that you really do care about this.
I think it-
the question how we do it, we'll do it instead of you.
Well, certainly, I'm.
What do you mean, certainly with a smirk on your
No,
face?
no, sorry, just a
No,
moment.
you say certainly with a smirk on your face, it's ridiculous.
No, come on, come on,
I
come on.
hope the mayor is on our side.
Like, really?
So with a smirk on the face?
No, there was no smirk here.
Hey, I think it's very easy to get the health authority to take notice. We all go to our physician and complain about respiratory problems.
Right.
They've really a number that large that the health authority cannot ignore us, whether they find anything or not. If there's all of a sudden 500 reports from physicians saying, out of the Tanner Ridge area, we have patients coming every day with respiratory problems, they will take notice.
Thank you.
Just before you
Okay,
go
Councillor
to,
Olmsted?
I wonder if you'd allow Terry Mitchell to respond to that comment.
Okay.
He's had his hand up,
Is
and,
that
and,
okay
it,
with
and
you
it's just
folks? Terry
relevant
Mitchell's
to
on.
that last comment.
Terry, go ahead.
Hi, thanks very much. I didn't want to interrupt your
Not at all.
your thoughts spent
Got the floor.
time. First off, I was watching news tonight, and it showed a building going up in our field, or not our field, but a neighbor's field. That's not a compost building, if that's what people were referring to. It showed it on the news tonight, a brick building going up along Lochside there.
Yeah.
That's not a compost building, it's some other farm building, it doesn't belong to our family. Secondly, I hear your concerns about the smell and the odor. I've smelt them many times also when the wind is blowing our way. All I have to say to that is, I don't know how they run their operation there. I've been over there a few times, but in last fall, before the district started having problems with the smells and that, last fall I was down through the States and Abbotsford and many other places and saw many facilities, even in downtown Salt Lake City, that had no odors. And there's many places that don't have odors, and they work very well in the neighborhoods, right on farms. That's just so you know that I have done a lot of research. Another one is that we've been composting yard and garden waste on Lochside there, at 10 or 12,000 ton a year for 12 years. Many people don't even know we're doing it. All our product gets used on our farm. Another point that I may point out is that we were actually bringing chicken manure from the mainland for 2 years. We paid to haul chicken manure to Victoria, or to our farm, because we can't get it locally. We can't get cow manure, chicken manure, nutrients back in the soil. So we were adding it to our compost that we make out of yard and garden waste. The point that I might make about the Saanich contract is it was an RFP that was put out. We have put in a tender for it, and it's a commingled product. It has some food waste in it. It's exactly the same that's used in Abbotsford. Your lawn clippings, your grass clippings, your kitchen waste goes into the same bin, so it's not just a bin of sloppy food. I've been over several times on surprise visits to this one in Abbotsford. Even before they had their biofilter operating, they had no complaints. They're doing about 14,000, 15,000 ton in the last year, and with no complaints. It's inside a building with a blanket system, a gore system, with ventilation, biofilter, temperature control, and they can turn out compost over there in about 6 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks. On our farm down here, we're doing it in about 2 years. So we're handling the material a lot, turning it a lot to turn it into compost. So the technology is out there to have very good compost facilities. Obviously by this room, it hasn't worked in Central Saanich yet. But I just want to remind people that we have been doing yard and garden outside on the farm, not even inside a building for 12 years.
Thank you very much for informing us.
The highway was quite congested as we were driving back down the Pat Bay Highway, and we get into the McHugh Valley, and the stink was absolutely horrible. It's not just us who are residents, it's not just us who are the stakeholders. There were people from that plain who were tourists, there were business people, there were people from the ferry who were coming here to Victoria to visit, and that's the first thing that they get assaulted with. Just imagine their reaction to what Victoria is all about when they run through that wall of stink. So we aren't just the only stakeholders here. There should be some involvement with the Sydney Business Association, the Brentwood Business Association, the Victoria Chamber of Commerce. They should be involved. Everybody should be involved who is a stakeholder. And the stakeholders reach much further than just us in a local community and our council. So they should be involved. Now, as far as the gentleman was saying, how can we measure it? And Mayor Bryson, how can we measure it? We have 2 universities here, and we have some professors of environmental studies. Stephen Sakiyama is one of them, and he's at Royal Roads. I don't know Stephen myself, but I've been recommended that he is a type of individual who, this is his expertise. Why could not Central Saanich employ him to do the studies that are necessary? Because we do need to know what is in that stink and how is it affecting us. So,
say that
our staff have actually been in contact with UVic to see what resources are available. So we're already looking to see if Central Saanich was to take this on. I mean, there's stuff that I'm not going to get into that is in camera material, except to say that the staff have already been in contact with UVic to see what sort of opportunities are available.
My husband is a scientist at UVic. His area of expertise, and he's known for this area of science all over the world. He has not been contacted.
Well, I can tell you that staff have been in contact. Can you give us information?
Not only would I be happy to give it to you, my
That'd be great.
husband specifically asked me to give it to you.
Well, it might even be, we might even have one in there. So
In addition to that, there are many local engineering firms, environmental engineering firms, consultants, that this is their everyday job to
Right, there's a
perform
lot
these
of
kind of
wisdom in this
studies.
room and contacts and people, so we can get solutions here.
Bruce Allen from Elaine Way. Early July, I phoned the mayor, was in pretty high dudgeon because we'd come home from a barbecue and we were hoping to have a glass of wine on our deck, and the reek was there and I was in high dudgeon. Anyhow, later that week I phoned VHA, the Environmental Health Officer office, and said, I think we got a problem in Central Saanich, dealing with the off-gassing from the composting. And what can you do for us? Well, we don't have the funding and we don't have the instrumentation and that. But I said, a few years ago, you did an air quality survey down in James Bay. There was concerns about the cruise ships and the particulates and nitrous oxides off-gassing because they're running their engines all night. I said, why don't you do the same thing for us out here in Central Saanich? Well, you know, we just aren't funded for it anymore. Well, in my experience, when you can't handle it at the local level, you go up to the next higher level, right? And our friend over there that spoke earlier about it going to the provincial government. So we had a meeting of concerned neighbors just up on road off there, where's Sharon? And, yep. And a group of us met with Gary Holman, our MLA, down at the big house on the water. And we talked about some solutions and so on, and he has written letters to Minister of Health, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Environment over our concerns. I also sent a long email to the Minister of Environment outlining Health, outlining my concerns over the air quality that we're breathing here tonight even. And that was mid-July. Didn't hear very much, so I followed up. And I've been in contact with the staff of each of those three ministers, to try and arrange meetings with them, with that group that met with Gary Holman, to bring our concerns up to the provincial level, because it's going to need, you know, why should Central Saanich pay for an air quality survey? You know, this is a provincial responsibility, right? The province should undertake that responsibility. And they should also be monitoring composting facilities across the province to make sure that what's coming out of them is safe for the folks that live around that area. So that's my piece.
Thank you very much. There was a gentleman in the back.
Councillor King, I just very quickly restate my question.
Public service.
Yes, please.
I believe that it's very important that we get the CRD to stop contracting out for a number of private individual Will the mayor declare, and I would actually go further, every single Central Saanich council, if they declare where they stand on that issue?
What I will do is I will listen to the public on this, and I will certainly represent the wishes of the community. And I will also listen to, quite frankly,
Well, what is the wish of the community right here?
I mean, we're hearing from a group of people tonight. I'm not going to make a blanket statement here tonight simply because that will...
We've been asking this question for 4 years.
You know who to vote for in the next election.
You know what? Maybe that is an important point. Because do you want somebody who's prepared to listen to the public and then try to bring forward the best solution rather than is going to respond necessarily to the pressure of a large crowd pressing on one particular issue? I think there's a lot of other perspectives.
It's not that is Mr. Mayor, I would be very brief. Mr. Mayor, with due respect, I understand your point of view, and I accept that point of view, but I don't accept the fact that you're not prepared to to deal with the argument that's being made. We know the small private operator is creating problems. You've heard it all night here, and you know that's going to happen in the future. So it's not a difficult question for you to answer. What you privately stand on the issue about making sure that it's in public hands and the public is protected.
Fair enough, and I will say that I think that if a facility was being created at Heartland that was processing, I think the figure was something like 30,000 tons of diverted organics, I would suggest that would not be a small private operator. And I wouldn't, and I'll be perfectly frank, I will not immediately preclude a private operator being able to meet a very high level of specification on that facility. I just won't, I won't eliminate that possibility tonight.
And I'll just say, Mr. Erickson, you've been very good in yielding to allow other people to speak. Even so, I think there are still some people that haven't spoken for the first time, isn't that correct? Probably the case. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for the first time? So there's, okay, would you like?
Yeah, I was asking why were the fines not ever applied to
That's
this?
right.
I mean, it's clearly laid out in the bylaws that this will be enacted by the CRD, boy, the fumes affect your brain. And why was it never? We never heard a whisper that there was ever fines. The fines even go from 1,000 to 200,000. And this is why I spoke to Terry Mitchell too, because are you willing to entertain that risk that your neighbors are going to go, this is smelling 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 200,000, you've been warned 4 times. You know, are you willing to entertain that possibility? Because that can be a possibility if the fines are applied correctly and diligently when it is a problem. I mean, this has been such an egregious problem, not just to us and what we're breathing, but I look at what happened to the people that lived in really close, in the first epicenter of ground zero, and the litter and crap that went into their yard and the dust. Where was their compensation?
Compensation fines, do we have information on fines? No.
CRD. You're talking about the CRD.
The other half.
Yeah.
But he's not the owner.
So let's try and hear.
So and this will really upset people, but as I've said, this is a process that is the enforcement process is handled by staff, right? And the decisions in terms of enforcement are made by staff. And I would say we've gone past the stage of fines, quite frankly, because we've heard we had warning letters initially, and then we went to suspension. So fines would be before that, I would suggest, or actually have gone to a suspension of the license. Now, beyond that, in terms of the details of the bylaw enforcement, you know that I'm about to say that that's an independent matter, and I'm not able to discuss it.
So
well, it's still happening though, the pollution is still happening, however.
So what, I want to go to somebody who hasn't spoken.
I haven't, and I do have
okay,
some
here and
questions
then
I'd like to ask.
Go ahead.
One of the things that's been talked about a lot here is the involvement of the ALC and their pending decision on whether this is actually considered a farm operation or not. I have a couple questions about that. One is, any decision they are making, are they making it based on any kind of scientific with any kind of scientific background on that the amount of compost that is being allowed to be composted on farms is actually usable by the size of the farm, or that there would be a detrimental effect to that farm. The other question I have is, if they do make a decision and they say arbitrarily 20,000 tons, are we going to have, sorry, Mr. Mitchell, but are we going to have a lot of farmers saying, okay, fine, I'm going to do 19,999 tons so that I can keep my farm status, pay farm taxes, and this is a farming operation? Who's in charge of all of that? That's what I want to know. And how are they going to go about making that decision? I'm very concerned that they're going to make a decision and then everybody's going to open up a grand slam of people putting in applications for a license to be able to do this without any kind of monitoring.
So am I correct that you're asking what is the Agricultural Land Commission doing?
My concern is, yes.
Yes.
What are they doing? How are they going about making the decision? Is it going to be arbitrary? And what kind of control is there going to be if it is considered to be a farm operation, that these composting facilities are actually being monitored so that they are staying within the guidelines? I'm sorry, but a bylaw is kind of lame here. I think that they need to have some kind of better regulation around it so that they are, doing things the way that it should be done scientifically. And I do agree with the people back over there, it can be done without smell, it can be done in a much better way, but not in large quantities like that. So, you know, what I'm wondering about, it seems like there's a lot of people waiting on tender hooks here, waiting for a decision by the ALC, but we have no idea how they're going about doing
Yes.
that.
And I don't
And I'm
know if
very
we
concerned
have all
about
the
that.
answers on that, but with your help, perhaps we can press them to give those answers, you know, and
Sorry,
those
I'm
detailed
Monica from
questions.
Central Saanich Road. I forgot that part.
My name is Bernie Clark, and my wife Denise and I live on Tanner Ridge in Wilcox. And we're relatively newbies to your area. We've been here about a year and a half. And I'm a prairie boy. I was raised on a farm. I know the smell he's talking about with chickens and pigs, you name it. And I've never smelled anything like this. My concern is I don't know what the hell is being processed down there. I have no idea. Is it organic? And I also had a conversation with one of the farmers down in his area. I won't say where it was. And this gentleman's been down there a long time. I'm kind of nervous, excuse me. But the impression I got from the conversation was this fellow doesn't give a shit about us at all. He just doesn't care. It's a money grab, that's all he sees. And the operation, from what this fellow was telling me, is way undersized for the capacity of product that's going through there. It's about a third of what, you know, say there's, I don't know, is it 500,000 pounds? I don't know how much is going through there, but it's about a third of what, or 3 times of what should be going through there, and it's increasing. So if he's shut down right now, why is the smell even worse than ever before? That's what I really want. I want to know what the hell's down there.
Fair question.
And where do we find that out? Who's going to give us an honest answer?
It's an ultimate solution. In a democracy, and I've been asking to talk, in a democracy, we work through our elected officials until they do not work for us.
Right.
Eventually, the democracy will take control in their own hands. And that's what you're asking us to do. And it may not be good, it may not be nice.
There's a representative democracy and a direct democracy. And right now, we're having a more direct democracy sort of a process whereby it's your community and you're taking control here. So absolutely, and I welcome that. I don't want to wrestle that away. So absolutely, I want to encourage you to carry on with that
Would
sentiment.
you join us?
I'm not sure what we're asking. Join us in this democracy. I'm already there. I'm already there.
I completely agree with what you're saying over there. I think one thing coming to the meeting tonight, I wanted to see good communication with everybody, good thoughts, and not people just kind of yelling at people. That's what I saw at the city council, and just frustration. Obviously, I'm frustrated too, but I think if we can identify some things, such as what your husband's willing to do, I think if it's identified as a health issue, I think it's going to go up the chain faster. It's not just a stink issue, an annoying community issue, or a pain in the butt issue. But I think if we can go on that vein and identify some legitimate concerns that's affecting our health, once that happens, you will get the response from an upper level of government for sure. Because right now, this lower municipality right now seems like, yeah, okay, and just posturing a bit. No disrespect to you, but 4 hats is too many hats to wear to represent people and interests of people and a community of people. So I can appreciate your situation for sure, but I don't think 4 hats is kind of what I'm looking for as somebody who's going to lead and take charge of the situation. I think we need to identify some key things tonight to move forward so we feel as a community that something is happening.
Thank you.
And I think what you said back over there about your husband, I would like to see that name come forward tonight with some sort of timeline as far as getting a response and action. Not this, we sent a letter, we're waiting. We sent a letter, we're waiting. You know, it would be nice to see some more passion and commitment behind this from our leaders within our city council. For sure, not just the community who sits on the street corner and complain all the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to carry on this way, and the next person is yourself.
Yeah, I'm Terry Ann Thompson, and I live on Wilcox Terrace. And I've written to the Premier and to VHA, the Agriculture Minister, the Tourism Minister, the Agriculture Minister, and I sent them all a letter, basically up at 2 o'clock in the morning, not happy, got that pneumonia in the face. And so I wrote and said that we needed help with our problem. She came back and said it was at your level. It was your problem, and it's a local problem to solve. So a couple of days later, I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning again, hammering up another letter. And I think that's what we all have to do. I think we have to write to the Premier, and we've got to copy all of those people. They're on the website. And it's one thing, we send in a letter with 260 signatures on it. It's different getting a letter like that than it is 260 letters or 300 letters, and just flood them with them. And it's got to go to everybody. And you got to let them know how you're feeling, what you're thinking, and the fact, like for instance, if they go over 20,000 tons, it requires an environmental survey. Well, isn't it strange that none of these amounts are over 20,000? And even when we double it to 18,500, it's under 20,000. But in reality, nobody monitors what went in there. It could have been 50,000 and we wouldn't know. So that's something that somebody has to do. And when you're talking about health, that orange sludge that's been landing on your deck and your barbecues is in the air we're breathing. VHA can't ignore that. It is there.
Thank you. Do you want to state your name?
My name is Lee Hardy. I'm at 6309 Old East Road. I'm right next door. Excuse me. My voice is like this. It's like this when I'm here. I actually work in Vancouver, and I don't talk like this when I'm in Vancouver. It's constant when I'm here. I have a bunch of things to say. First of all, yes, they are still bringing in waste. It's coming along Old East Road. I believe the CRD is monitoring the best that they can within their jurisdiction. Another thing is, I believe Dave Bond has done a study, and I think last year it was 46,000 tons that they brought in that they saw, and they're not home 24/7. That's what they wrote in a log, hand wrote in a log. Another point is Harvest Energy in Richmond received support from a bunch of different government agencies. Of course, now I've lost it. Financing for the Energy Garden was supported by a $4 million contribution from Natural Resources Canada, and a $1.5 million contribution from BC Bioenergy Network. There's a lot of government grants and things. I suspect you've already started to look into those things.
For a public facility.
Public facility, yes. Another thing is, as you know, like you say, we have the tools. We've started a Farm Industry Review Board complaint along with the bonds, and it was reopened when we started a class action lawsuit. And there will be a meeting in this neighborhood somewhere next Wednesday regarding our class action lawsuit. And our third hearing that was put on hold has now been reopened because of our lawsuit and your lawsuit.
And who should people contact if they want to?
Well, they can go to the website. We're going to get it on the website. I wrote Tanner Ridge. What is the website?
TannerRidge.ca.
Yeah, and anywhere else. Hopefully it'll be next Wednesday night. And our lawyer will come out. I just talked to him. He will come out and explain the class action lawsuit.
Okay.
And we can all get together on that. And Ray Baker, my husband, regrets not being here tonight. He's very sick. I want to
If I overstep the line at something I'm doing around my home, my God, there's somebody there by the morning and they're rah, rah, rah. And even though they're wrong in what I have been accused of, I'm not even allowed to know who the accuser is. And they still say, you've got to do whatever this complaint is. You say, how? It's not me. So we know who this is. I think we should find them and get right on it, get off the pot and do it.
Okay. And the CRD you're thinking should find them.
Absolutely.
And with that, we'll go here first.
Doris Bell. I'm on Rosa Vista Place. I want to speak to a couple of things. One is what Lee just mentioned about the class action lawsuit coming up and any information like that. I've been, while our webmaster's been away, I've been taking care of the website. There's a lot of information there. If you haven't checked it, please do. If you want an idea of the many issues that we're facing, a number of them are listed on the contact page of the website with the people that you can write to an email with your concerns. And as somebody said, if somebody gets a letter with a few signatures on it, it's not nearly as effective as if they get hundreds and thousands of emails and letters. I suggest our community really get busy doing that kind of thing. Also on that website, if you haven't been following or don't know all the background, that's on the About page. Sort of a conglomerate of everything that's happened thanks to the different people who are at Ground Zero who have provided a lot of that information. And any news that is coming up will be posted on the homepage of the website, so check there. If you haven't put your name on the email distribution list, please do. The sign-up sheets are here because that's how you will get bulletins that will make you aware of what's happening right away, what's important, what's coming up. So please do that. A question for Mayor and Council. Is there any way to approach this differently with the powers that you have? Can there be a nuisance fine, a nuisance suit brought against this organization? Is that within your powers?
Well, the statement of claim is to do with compliance.
But I understand that, but do you have at your disposal the ability to say you are creating a nuisance and therefore we will fine you?
Can we take that and ask our staff? And ask our professional staff whether or not that's possible?
Yes, yes. Like, can you do something now, just on a nuisance?
Legal counsel, et cetera? Ken?
As we've got about a minute left, and I think I was one of the first speakers, and you appropriately put me in my place when I got a bit emotional. I'd like to thank you for the way you conducted the meeting today.
I agree.
Secondly, I think we'll be leaving this meeting collectively, not totally satisfied, but at least having some great ideas. They always say some of the best ideas come at the end of any meeting. I add my recommendation and strong encouragement to get on tannerridge.ca. Right there, it's all there, you just have to copy it as we've been doing and send it to all those officials. Because it's clear that for whatever reason, in camera, conflict of interest, legal suits, our elected body of officials have gone about as far as they can go. Let's, as somebody said, let's take the power in our own hands and do this. And the best power is when the people speak. So I implore you to do this.
Thank you. Okay.